Welcome to the Private Practice Journeys podcast, where mental health professionals learn about the nuts and bolts of private practice by listening to the journeys of 4 therapists that have taken the plunge into private practice. And here's your host, Chris Quarto.
Hey everyone, this is Chris Quarto. Welcome again to Private Practice Journeys. Well, this day got off to a great start. My wife and I decided we were going to go to my son's coffee shop. He's a barista in Nashville. And my wife is a music teacher, and she's on spring break this week. So we thought this would be a great time to go out and get some great coffee, wonderful food at this coffee shop called Box. And so we went there and spent some time with my son on his break. And so it was a good time, all in all. And, of course, the weather cooperated. We're here at 80 degrees. In the Murfreesboro area today. So spring is coming, things are coming alive, life is good. Well, today Amanda Petrik is going to be talking about her experiences over the past month. So without further ado, here's Amanda. Hi, Journey followers. Welcome again to Private Practice Journeys. I'm your host, Chris Quarto. Well, if this is the first time you've listened to a Private Practice Journeys podcast, this is where I interview 4 therapists who are taking the plunge into private practice. And I interview them once a month throughout 2017. And today I'm joined by Amanda Petrik. And Amanda, welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah. So you've been pretty busy. I noticed that you were a podcast guest for the Selling the Couch podcast. Is that right?
I was, and then coming out at the same time as yours.
That was amazing. I couldn't believe that because I released mine on Thursdays, and I released mine. Then I looked and I saw Selling the Couch. Hey, that's Amanda on there.
Because we had no idea.
Yeah.
Melvin didn't know when his would come out with mine, and what's the chance? They were the exact same day.
Isn't that funny?
I woke up that morning, and boom, they were both out.
Well, you're getting a lot of good exposure, so that's wonderful. So
I am. It's been a good month.
Yes. Well, tell you what, let me just talk to the Journey followers for a sec here, and then we'll get back to the interview. One of the things I did, Journey followers, last month is I asked the 4 guests things that they've learned so far in private practice. And so I asked some things about how they learn by doing, how they learn from experience, learning how to market, and those types of things. And today I want to ask Amanda about some other things that she's learned. And Amanda, one of the things I wanted to ask you about today was learning how to manage time, because I think if a Journey follower isn't in private practice yet, well, even if they are really, but if they're not, they might not know much about how you spend your time as a private practitioner. And so I'm wondering how you distribute your time and how you've done that over the past month, just in terms of your professional activities. So seeing clients or writing notes, all those types of things. Why don't you start out but just by describing what a typical day looks like, and then maybe a typical week?
Yeah, so I'm not a morning person, so I have developed my schedule to look like that. I don't start my day until 10 or 11, kind of when my first client is booked.
Sure.
But I also stay later in the evening, sometimes 6 or 7. And I know that I literally have clients just scheduled every hour of the day except for when my lunch hour is.
Okay.
Because I'm still kind of used to the community mental health center way where every single hour of the day was booked.
Oh, yes.
And we didn't get, time to do our notes, time to do our billing. So I'm still kind of used to that.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm also very designed to work like that, where I get my note done as soon as my session is finished, that 5 minutes in between. I do my billing the second the session is finished. So I know that still might change, where I might actually block off an hour for paperwork at some point. But right now, I literally am here from 10 to 7, and every hour other than my lunch are all clients.
Wow. Okay. So you're pretty busy.
I am, but right now I think I'm still so trained to get my note done in that 5 minute in between.
Yep.
And I might burn out at some point, and then I'll give myself permission to schedule
Sure,
some
exactly.
paperwork times. But right now, that's what my schedule looks like. And Fridays, I come in a little bit later. And I mean, I know I get cancellations here and there, and that's when
Sure.
I catch up when my sessions do go over. So
That's interesting. I know that a lot of people go about doing the note taking differently, because I was sort of like you, and I kind of like to do it right away. I had a guy that I worked with many years ago who wouldn't do any notes until the very end of the week on Friday afternoons. That's what he would devote his time to. And I always thought to myself, how could he remember? Because he would see like 30, 35 clients a week. And it's like, how do you remember all that?
Yes,
because,
I don't remember that.
oh my gosh, because there could be some very significant things that you discuss in therapy. And, for me, I don't know about you, but for me, I don't want to forget those things. And I want to, jot those down and remember to, ask about them next time. But so I know that people go about that differently. Is that hard, though, for you to do that? I mean, you must have to be very disciplined to write notes immediately after sessions.
It is, because I have found, from the Facebook groups and blogs that I'm actually not in the norm there. Most people do wait till the end of the week and do all of them at once. And to me, that would stress me out because I wouldn't be able to remember the whole week's worth of notes. And so to me, it's actually way more relaxing to get it done immediately while it's still on my mind. But it does take a lot of discipline to get it done immediately, to close my door for that 5 minutes and get it done before my next client comes in. Because it would be so easy to check my email, to get on my phone, or to check Facebook, and I don't do that when I'm at work. I'm at work and I get it done.
Yeah.
So yes, much discipline.
So for you, really, a typical day would be to schedule many clients throughout the course of the day, and in between, just getting those notes written. And I wonder, is that hard for you to do that? That's we were just talking about how much discipline it takes to do the notes, but it's also got to take a lot of energy just to see client after client after client. Doesn't that run you down at all?
It does when they all do show, but I'm also used to, there will be the occasional person that needs to reschedule, and I count on that.
Right.
But yes, when all 8 of them do show in that day, it can be physically and mentally exhausting. But to me, I'm like, I've been doing this
right
all throughout while I worked at the hospital community mental health center. This is what we did. So, and these clients are actually higher functioning and a little bit easier than when I worked there. So to me, it's actually a little bit more of a breeze.
Yeah, it's nothing out of the norm for you. I mean, this is just what you've always known. But one of the nice things, I guess, is that they're higher functioning clients, and they may pay better too, I would imagine.
Yeah, I hate to say that, but they're actually easier clients, and the reward is greater.
Right.
So it's not nearly as exhausting going home at the end of the day seeing 8 as when I did back in the day. Exactly.
Well, one of the things I want to ask you about in a little while is, how you take care of yourself. Because you're putting out there's a lot of energy involved and all that kind of stuff. But before we get to that, let me just segue into our next topic here. And it's learning to develop successful habits. And you've probably heard of Stephen Covey. He's the guy that wrote that book, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Yeah. And I wonder if for you, I know that this is still kind of early on in your private practice plunge, but are there any habits that you've developed as a business owner to kind of help you build the private practice, or kind of looking at your successes over the past month? What are some of those successes, and how do you build on those?
I would say a couple I do, which I've already alluded to, is I know what I need to get done, and I stick to that part of staying disciplined. And what is a priority at work, and I make sure I do that. So it's not that while I'm at work, it's I I'm exhausted. I think I'll scroll through Facebook. No, I would never do that. It's, oh, I need to get out these invoices. I'm going to do that right now because I have 5 minutes of time. What can I do in that 5 minutes of time that would help me succeed today? So I know what I need to get done, and I always get that done.
Have you always been this disciplined?
Yeah. I've never been one to get behind in school or things at home. I've always been one, I get it done that day instead of next week.
Yes.
I think it probably drives everybody else crazy because if somebody gives me a task to do, it's done in a minute instead of in a week.
Right. But, there's something to be said about that. I think this would even be a topic for another podcast, is this kind of looking at your personality traits and what kind of personality traits kind of will help or hinder your success as a private practitioner. And it sounds like for you that discipline has really come into play. So what else? What other habits, anything else that you can think of, or successes, anything that's helped you be successful so far?
I think I'm just always trying to find, like, what else could I be doing with my time? If I do get the rare no-show and I'm just sitting around here, I'm never just sitting around here. I find something to do with that time that could benefit my business.
I see.
I'm like, how could I market myself right now? Or, I have somebody that has an overdue invoice. I'm going to give them a call right now.
I see.
So I always find something to do. And I always joke around with friends, like, I'm probably going to die of a heart attack by the time I'm 40, but I get stuff done.
Right. Well, and I think that's one of the things, and I think just being a professional, that's something that you would do, but I think that's particularly important. Wouldn't you agree, Amanda, for a private practitioner to kind of get into a mindset that you just can't waste time, that there are important things that you need to get done to be a successful business person, and just kind of lollygagging around, it just isn't going to cut it, is it?
Exactly. Well, I wondered, about other clinicians or those going to private practice that they came into this for the flexibility or the easier hours, that it would be so easy to just be lax about everything.
Right.
And we have to be able to hold ourselves accountable to get everything done because nobody else is doing this for us. If I want to collect money, I have to collect the money. If I want to market myself, I have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that people that I've known in the past, private practitioners, the successful ones, have done exactly what you're talking about and have really taken advantage of opportunities to do billing or whatever the case may be, marketing, and that they just don't sit back and take advantage of the flexibility or the nice things about private practice, but they always are looking at what is it that I can be doing today to advance to the next level. And so I think that, successful private practitioners, I think, are always doing that kind of thing. So that's nice to hear. Well, let's go back to this topic, Amanda, of learning how to care for yourself, because we were just talking a little while ago about how this can be very exhausting, even though there's some really great things about private practice. You're working with great clients, most of them anyway, and there's certainly some financial benefits, but boy, it can take a toll on you too. And so I'm wondering, as you're kind of getting into this, especially when you're first starting a private practice, I know that there's a lot of stress involved, and for some people, they can go overboard and take on too much. And so there's a lot of things, I think, that can stress a person out. So have you learned about what your signs or signals are that you're getting, too stressed out? And, and what do you do in those situations? What's your formula for self-care, Amanda?
Yeah, so you mentioned what are my signs. So I'm already prone to pretty bad migraine, so I can even tell, like, when I'm in sessions and I'm like, okay, I've had too many today, or once I've gone home and I'm still feeling pretty bad.
Yeah.
Then I need to take care of myself, or I just get easily agitated. I start snapping at family, so that's how I can tell that I need to do a little bit more for myself. And just based on my personality type, I can have a tough time leaving that at the door when I come home because I still want to work on business.
Sure.
What can I still do once I come home?
Right.
So I've had to do a little bit more for myself. Like I need to physically go find something to do, sign up for a class, go hang out with a friend.
All
Because if I'm just sitting at home, my mind will be on business.
Oh, okay. So
my friends,
it's hard to turn that off.
It is. My mind is just constantly going. I mean, hello, I'm that anxious personality where my mind is constantly racing. What else can I do?
Yeah.
I want to do more.
Uh-huh.
So my friends know me I'm always signed up for some kind of class. I'm taking a woodworking class. I'm taking an aerial yoga class. I'm taking a cake decorating class because I want to learn more. And this is how I can separate myself from work life and personal life.
Uh-huh.
And
so
it's hard to focus on business when you're woodworking.
Oh, well, exactly. And, so it sounds like, kind of getting that back to that personality, sounds like you're more like the, I guess, the proverbial type A personality who's always having kind of driven to be doing things all the time. And really what you found is that the only way of dealing with that is to just totally get your mind off from that by delving into other types of activities. And it sounds like these are activities that where you're doing something, and that sounds like that's a good way for you to kind of get your mind off that stuff.
I'll sign up for an exercise class, and I will hopefully at some point be able to find a balance where I can do self-care activity of not doing like meditation, but at this point I have to physically go do something to get my mind off of it.
I wonder, for some people, because I have that tendency too, is to be more of, I guess, the workaholic, and I wonder for you if it's a struggle to get yourself to relax or to sign up for those classes. Do you have to really convince yourself to do that because you're thinking, if I do that, then I won't be working on the business, and I really need to be doing that. I want to be successful. Do you have those kind of conflicts inside, Amanda?
I have sometimes struggled signing up for class because I'm like, that could be a client hour. Say if it was, because I tend to work till 7, and if it was a 6:30 class, that was tough. I'm going to be leaving work early. But once I sign up and I love it, and I'm so glad I'm doing something for myself, then the benefits outweigh everything else.
So what are those benefits? Say a little bit about that. So you're in these classes and stuff. So how do you benefit from participating in those things?
I think, like I mentioned earlier, how I can tell that I'm getting stressed out physically, like migraines, the agitation. I can tell just going out, say doing a yoga class, that I am much more relaxed, much calmer, and then that withstands for several days or until the next week when I am there again, and that reflects in my sessions. That reflects on my family members.
Okay,
they can tell that I'm in a better place, and so that's something that I need to do.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you about. If you find that engaging in the self-care has benefits for you professionally. I guess that was the first thing I was going to ask, and then personally. And actually, that's a good segue. Unless you want to say something about that, I was just going to segue. But do you have anything to say that you want to say about that? Anything more?
No, just going off of what you just said, I can tell if I don't do enough for myself. If I just go through 30 straight client hours the whole week without doing anything. And I hate to admit it, I can start even getting short with my clients, and that's the worst.
Oh, yeah.
I hate even admitting that I could become that kind of therapist, and that's only happened a couple weeks in my entire lifetime. Because I'm usually good about even going out with friends just to kind of do something good for myself.
And that's a good point, because, and I think that's where self-awareness comes into play, doesn't it? As a therapist, to be able to really reflect and look at yourself and say, what am I doing here? And especially if it starts creeping into your sessions, and it's like, wait a minute, something's going on.
I'm not usually like that.
And, something's going on here, and I need to address this. And so that's where obviously, supervision comes into play that way too. But certainly, you have to have some level of self-awareness to see what's going on, and then to take steps to address it. So, yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about learning how private practice affects personal relationships, because when you do this, when you first start a practice or expand a practice, other people come along for the ride in some form or fashion, and I guess the people I'm talking about are spouses or partners or children or family members, friends. And I'm wondering for you, Amanda, who's come along for a ride with you in this plunge into private practice, and what kind of roles have they played as you develop your practice?
I would probably say mostly it's been my fiance.
All right.
And luckily, he's also in the field. He's a therapist.
Oh, okay.
And he has a part-time private practice.
All right.
So he completely understands what I'm doing.
Nice.
And so he's not only been, you asked about roles, he's not only been kind of that supportive listening ear as I'm stressed out, but also been this helping role, because he understands. He can give me advice or ideas of what I need to do. It's been extremely helpful.
That's really, I mean, you're really lucky, aren't you? I mean, to have somebody who understands, who probably he's a great guy, I assume, and also the added benefit is that he's a therapist. So, I mean, he knows exactly what's going on here. So, boy, what a great situation for you to have been in. Has there been any challenges at all in terms of the relationship? Have you found that kind of starting in private practice, has it placed any kind of strains on the relationship? And I don't want to get too personal, but you just share with me whatever you want to share.
Some premarital counseling.
Yeah.
Right. I was thinking about what challenges does this put on us? Because if anything, it's done so many good things as far as flexibility. I was thinking about, if anything, all I've wanted to do and to talk about and focus on has been business, and to come to him for advice and help. And that's been the biggest challenges, because I'm sure he does not want to talk about business right now. Right.
Okay. So
though I want to go to him for help, and that's probably been the big one.
Okay. So I guess really balance is what you're saying here, is that it could be challenging in terms of trying to maintain balance, because on the one hand you have all the real exciting business ideas and things that have happened to you throughout the course of the day. But then on the other hand, there's more to life than private practice. There's all this other stuff that goes on too. And so kind of reading between the lines, what I'm hearing, I guess, for people who go into private practice, is that it's important to maintain some sort of balance in personal relationships.
So I've been wondering if other clinicians, those taking the plunge, have found this too. It's like you almost want to talk about it all the time. Like, look what success we've had, or, oh no, this didn't work out so well, or you want to find out if others have gone through it.
Oh, sure.
And it's like other people probably don't want to talk about business all day.
I know. Well, there's going to be at some point down the road, I'm going to have all four of you guys on a Private Practice Journeys podcast episode where all of us can kind of share with one another at the same time. So these types of things, these kind of conversations, wouldn't that be fun just to hear?
That would be great.
Yeah, that would be really fun to do that. And so, yeah, we'll have to do that for sure. Well, the last thing I want to talk about today, Amanda, is learning to develop a private practice mindset or an identity. And I know that for some people who make the switch from working for a nonprofit like you were in community mental health to a for-profit practice or a business, that it can be challenging for them in terms of, what are we trying to accomplish here, and how are things done? The philosophies, like you were talking about, you have a higher functioning clientele now, and what kind of transitions did you go through in terms of developing a private practice mindset or identity? Has that been difficult for you?
The difficult part has been the money mindset part of it.
Okay.
I got used to the higher functioning clients, because I got to slowly transition from the community mental health center to the hospital, which was a huge change in functioning, and then from here to part-time private practice, which kind of eased me into it. But the money mindset understanding, becoming comfortable with what I'm worth
Okay.
was difficult. Even things from collecting co-pays and like, oh gosh, I have to actually collect money for my service to sending out invoices was really nerve-wracking and almost being embarrassed that I am worth this amount of money.
Mm-hmm. Were you ever concerned? Were you ever concerned that a client was going to call you on it? Like, how can you be charging this much money?
Yes, and I haven't even gotten quite that phrase, but even some people have made jokes about, oh yeah, my mother got the bill and was like, she overcharges, stuff like that. And even, I've gotten more comfortable with, people make those types of comments. But in the beginning, you really second guess, again, what it is that you're worth. And I really had to start to look at it from a consumer standpoint. When my doctor asked for $30 copay, you don't think anything of it. Or when you get the bill because you haven't met your deductible, you don't think anything of it. You just pay that off.
Is that how you kind of work through that? Because I'm always curious about how clinicians, when they first start into private practice, how they kind of resolve that. Because I went through the same thing that you did. And, so for you, it sounds like you kind of looked at it from the framework of what a doctor would do. Is there anything else that helped you and maybe you're still working on this, I don't know, but get to the point where it's okay for me to be charging my fee. I don't have a problem with that anymore. Is there anything else that you did to kind of help you get to that point?
I think the couple things were, one, presenting, and this isn't anything like I literally explained to the client, but just kind of knowing, when I'm giving them that fee, I'm not getting that full fee, that 100, 150.
Right.
How much of that is going to taxes, is going to my rent, my billing, my, all my office supplies. So knowing that, and then also kind of that fake it till you make it, showing confidence in my fee.
Yeah.
Then they reciprocate in feeling confident in my fee. Yeah, so now, nobody even second guesses it, because it used to be when somebody would ask me on the phone, how much do you charge? Oh my gosh, I would say it without ever even saying it. I never even told them how much it was. And now I just flat out say it and then tell them, oh, if that doesn't work for you, then here's who you could go to.
So what have been the client's reactions when you tell them what your fee is?
It's half and half. Some of it completely accept it, and the other half, nobody gasps or says anything negative. They just kindly say, oh, they can't afford that, and I give them referrals to what community agencies can do sliding scales or, university clinics that are run by students.
Right.
So nobody has had any horrible negative reactions like I assumed they would.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that you always think the worst, that clients are just going to get all upset or prospective clients but in the majority of cases that never happens. And if the worst thing is that, well, I really can't afford that, and like you said, well, let me give you some names and numbers here of people that you can check who might be able to offer some services for you at a lower fee. So yeah, I think that's a reasonable way of approaching that. And because it all gets back to, you're in business and you've got to make money to be able to make the business grow and thrive. And if the client can't do that, then you'll have to offer them other options. But I think, when we're in school and we're learning about doing this stuff, we don't really learn about the business side of this. We learn more about the human, the passion or compassionate side of working with people. And I think it takes a little while to kind of work through this and to kind of look at things from more of a business perspective. It takes time, doesn't it?
It does. And I think because we're in the helping field, I don't think clients do this purposely, but they almost know how to tug at our heartstrings and almost make us feel bad. They don't mean to make us feel bad, but they do.
Yeah.
And so they can feed on that lack of confidence and how much we're worth. And yeah, that I have completely changed how I view that. And I mean, just in a matter of a couple months, I have changed my views and my actual policies on no-show fees and attendance. I've already changed my insurance providers because I'm like, hey, they charge a third of, or they reimburse a third of what I charge.
Oh,
so
yeah.
terminated with them.
Yeah.
And yeah, made a lot of changes based on how I view it.
Yeah, well, good for you. Well, what do you have coming up this month? Do you have anything new and exciting coming up this month, or is this going to be continue as things have been and just try to build up the clientele?
I have some speaking events, but still building up clientele.
Okay.
And then I'm excited. I've decided to go paperless in all my documentation. So that was kind of a huge feat. Yeah. We're sending out kind of using that electronic health record. We send the clients the information online, and no more typing in information and scanning it.
Isn't that nice?
And that's nice. Oh, it's great.
I want to get to that point. I'm moving there. I will get there eventually, but so that's nice to hear that you're at that point. So
I know, that's been fun.
Well, Amanda, if people want to check out your website or get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Yes, my website is amandalcpc.com. And from there, you can find my Facebook page, my email, anything you need.
Okay, wonderful. And we look forward to checking that out and also interacting with you on the Private Practice Journeys Facebook community. This Journey followers who are listening to this podcast episode for the first time today might not know that we have a companion Facebook community where Amanda and the other 3 therapists and everybody else, a lot of other people, will talk about these types of private practice issues. So if you're not a member of that community yet, just go on and search for that Facebook community, and I'll approve you, and you'll be able to read all that interesting stuff. So, well, Amanda, thanks so much for joining us today, and I'll talk to you again next month.
All right, sounds great.
Okay, thanks. All right, great to hear Amanda's perspectives on private practice over this past month. And I think the really neat thing that she has going is she has a fiance who's in part-time private practice, and kind of a real, I was going to say a built-in support system, but in this case, a special type of support in that he understands what this is all about, what she's going through, the ins and outs of private practice. And nice to have somebody like that on your side, in your corner, to help you, especially when you're first starting out trying to develop the practice. Well, if you have any questions, or if you want to check out the show notes for today's podcast episode, go to my website, chrisquarto.com, and they'll be all there. And also check out the Private Practice Journeys Facebook community if you haven't done that yet, because we have a lot of great conversations pertaining to private practice issues. And until next week, I'm Chris Quarto. Thanks so much for joining me.